When I got that call from my mom telling me she'd sold our family home while I was stationed overseas, I thought my world was ending. What she didn't know was that I'd already bought it back 3 months earlier. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people dig their own graves.
I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. My name is Reggie Caldwell, and this story starts 2 years ago when I was deployed to Germany with the Air Force. I'd been stationed at Ramstein for about 8 months, working as a communications specialist, when everything back home started falling apart. My mom, Patricia, had been struggling financially ever since my dad passed away 4 years earlier. The house in Millbrook, Tennessee, a modest 3-bedroom ranch that my parents bought in 1998, was becoming too much for her to handle. The mortgage payments, utilities, maintenance, property taxes, I get it, I really do. But what happened next changed everything between us. I'd been sending her money every month since I enlisted. Not huge amounts, but enough to help with groceries and some of the bills. From Germany, I was making decent money, and since most of my expenses were covered on base, I could afford to help out. I thought we had an understanding about the house. I thought she knew how much that place meant to me. The house on Oakwood Drive wasn't just a house. It was where I learned to ride my bike in the driveway, where my dad taught me to throw a curveball in the backyard, where my high school girlfriend Sarah and I had our first kiss on the front porch swing. Every corner held memories. My childhood bedroom still had glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling that my dad helped me put up when I was 7. In February, during one of our weekly video calls, Mom seemed more stressed than usual. She kept mentioning money troubles, how the house was too big for just her, how the neighborhood was changing. I offered to increase the monthly support I was sending, but she brushed it off, said she was fine, just thinking out loud. March came and went. Our calls became shorter, less frequent. When I did reach her, she seemed distracted, evasive. I chalked it up to her being busy with her book club and volunteer work at the animal shelter. Mom had always been independent, sometimes to a fault. Then came the first week of April. I was in the middle of routine maintenance on some communications equipment when my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. "Reggie, honey, we need to talk. Important family matters. Call me when you can." The time difference between Germany and Tennessee meant I had to wait 6 hours before calling. Those were the longest 6 hours of my deployment. I ran through every possible scenario in my head. Was she sick? Has something happened to my Uncle Mike? Was there a problem with my dad's life insurance? When I finally got through, her voice sounded strange, rehearsed. "Reggie, I need to tell you something, and I need you to promise you won't get upset." Already, my stomach was dropping. Nothing good ever started with those words. "I've made a decision about the house. I've been talking to a real estate agent, and we think now is a good time to sell. The market is really strong, and I could use the equity to get something smaller, maybe a nice condo closer to downtown." I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. "Mom, what are you talking about? We never discussed selling the house. That's Dad's house. That's our family home." "Honey, your father is gone. It's just a house. And it's becoming a financial burden I can't handle anymore. The roof needs work, the HVAC system is acting up again, and the property taxes went up 12% this year. I told you I'd help more with the expenses. We can figure this out without selling." "Reggie, you can't support me forever, and you don't live here anymore. When's the last time you were even home? Christmas 2 years ago?" That stung because it was true. Military life doesn't leave much room for frequent visits, especially when you're stationed overseas. But that didn't mean the house meant any less to me. "Mom, please, don't make any hasty decisions. I'll be home on leave in June. We can sit down and go through all the finances together. Maybe we can refinance or—" "I've already listed it, honey." The words hit me like ice water. "You what?" "I listed it yesterday. I'm sorry I didn't tell you first, but I knew you'd try to talk me out of it. This is what's best for both of us." I was pacing around my tiny barracks room, trying to process what I was hearing. Mom, you can't just sell our family home without talking to me. That house has been in our family for over 20 years. Reggie, I'm 62 years old. I don't need my son's permission to make decisions about my own property. Technically, she was right. The house was in her name, but morally, this felt like betrayal. How much are you asking for? 245,000. The agent thinks we might get offers above the asking price.
I did quick math in my head. With my military savings, deployment pay, and some investments I'd been building up, I had about 180,000 available. Not enough for the full asking price, but maybe enough to work something out. Mom, what if I bought it from you? I could give you fair market value, and you could still get your equity out. Honey, you don't have that kind of money. You'd be surprised what you can save when you're deployed and living on base. There was a long pause. Reggie, I appreciate the offer, but I've already committed to this process. The agent has scheduled showings for this weekend. That's when I realized my mom had already made up her mind. This wasn't a discussion or a family decision. This was her informing me of something she'd already set in motion. I have to go, I said. I need some time to process this. Reggie, please don't be angry. This is hard for me too, but it's the right thing to do. I hung up without saying goodbye. For the next 3 days, I could barely focus on my duties. My sergeant noticed and pulled me aside, asking if everything was okay back home. The military has resources for family emergencies, but what do you call it when your mom is selling your childhood out from under you? Not exactly a crisis that warrants emergency leave. I tried calling Mom twice more that week, but she didn't answer. Finally, on Friday, she sent a text. Honey, I know you're upset, but this is happening. The first show is tomorrow. Please try to understand. That's when I decided I wasn't going down without a fight. I spent the entire weekend researching real estate agents in Millbrook, property values in our neighborhood, and financing options for military personnel. By Sunday evening, I had a plan. Monday morning, I called Jennifer Walsh at Walsh Realty, not my mom's agent, but the one who seemed to handle the most properties in our area according to the local real estate websites. I explained my situation. I was deployed in the military, my mother was selling the family home, and I wanted to make a competitive offer sight unseen. Jennifer was intrigued by the unusual circumstances. So you want to buy your own childhood home without your mother knowing? She thinks I can't afford it. I want to prove her wrong. And you're comfortable making an offer without seeing the current condition of the property? I grew up there. I know every creak in the floorboards and every stain on the ceiling. Whatever repairs it needs, I can handle. Jennifer agreed to drive by the house and give me an honest assessment of its condition. She called me back 2 hours later. Reggie, I've got to be straight with you. The exterior needs some work. The front porch has a few loose boards, there's some peeling paint, and the landscaping has been neglected. But the bones of the house look solid. Your neighborhood is definitely in demand right now. What do you think I'd need to offer to be competitive? If your mother's asking $245, I'd recommend coming in at $250, maybe $255 to show you're serious. A cash offer would make you very attractive to the seller, even if she doesn't know it's you. I did the math again. It would clean out most of my savings, but I could make it work. Jennifer, I want to put in an offer for $252,000, all cash, flexible closing date. Are you sure about this, Reggie? Once we submit this offer, there's no going back. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Jennifer submitted my offer that Tuesday morning. The waiting game began. Meanwhile, I had to act normal during our weekly family video call. Mom looked tired, but determined when her face appeared on my laptop screen Wednesday evening. How are the showings going? I asked, trying to sound casually supportive rather than like someone who'd just put in a secret bid on the property. My heart was pounding. Really? That's great, Mom. Any offers yet? One came in yesterday, but it was lowball. My agent recommended we wait and see what else comes in this week. I wondered if she was talking about my offer or someone else's. 252 shouldn't have seemed like a lowball offer on a house listed for 245. What did the offer look like? Cash offer, which is nice, but about $7,000 under asking price. The agent thinks we can do better. That definitely wasn't my offer. Someone else was in the game. Well, you're not in a huge hurry, right? You can afford to be picky.
A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. Mom sighed. Actually, I kind of am in a hurry. I put a deposit down on a condo at Riverside Gardens. It's this beautiful retirement community, about 15 minutes from downtown. They have a pool, organized activities, and I wouldn't have to worry about maintenance anymore. You already put money down on a new place? Just a small deposit to hold the unit. But Reggie, it's perfect. 2 bedrooms, updated kitchen, and there's even a little balcony that overlooks the river. I felt sick. She wasn't just selling the house, she was already planning her exit from our family memories entirely. When would you need to close on the condo? Ideally by the end of May. The previous owner is moving to Florida and wants a quick sale. That gave me less than 7 weeks to pull this off. Thursday morning, Jennifer called with an update. Reggie, I've got good news and complicated news. The good news is that your offer has been submitted and the seller's agent has confirmed receipt. The complicated news is that there are now 3 offers on the table. 3? What are the other offers looking like? I can't get specifics, but I know one is conventional financing, one is FHA, and yours is the only cash offer. That should work in your favor, but I'm hearing the conventional financing offer might be higher than yours. How much higher are we talking? Possibly in the 260 range. I ran the numbers again in my head. I could potentially go up to 265, maybe 270 if I liquidated some investments, but that would leave me dangerously thin on emergency savings. Jennifer, what would you recommend? Honestly, your cash offer at 252 is strong, especially if the seller needs a quick closing. But if you can bump it up to 260, you'd be very competitive. Let me think about it and call you back in an hour. I spent that hour walking around the base, trying to clear my head. This was getting expensive, and there was no guarantee I'd even win. But every time I thought about backing out, I pictured Mom showing strangers through my childhood bedroom, pointing out the built-in desk where I did homework and the closet where I used to hide when I got in trouble. I called Jennifer back. Bump the offer to $260,000. Same terms, cash, flexible closing. You sure about this? Do it. Friday came and went with no word. I was starting to second-guess everything. Maybe I should have just accepted that Mom needed to move on. Maybe I was being selfish, trying to preserve something that only mattered to me. Saturday morning, my phone rang at 600 local time. Jennifer's name popped up on the screen. Reggie, are you sitting down? Should I be? Your offer has been accepted. I literally stopped walking. I was on my way to morning PT, but I just froze in the middle of the sidewalk. Are you serious? Dead serious. The seller accepted your offer of $260. Congratulations, you just bought your childhood home. What about the other offers? The conventional financing fell through during underwriting. Apparently, the buyer's debt-to-income ratio was higher than initially disclosed. The FHA offer was solid, but it was $10,000 lower than yours and would have required a longer closing timeline. So when do we close? That's up to you. Your mother's agent indicated the seller is flexible on timing, but would prefer sooner rather than later. What works for your schedule? I was scheduled for leave in late June, but this was bigger than my vacation plans. How quickly can we make this happen? With a cash purchase and no financing contingencies, we could potentially close in 3 weeks if all the inspections and paperwork go smoothly. Let's do it. Reggie, you realize this means you'll own the house before your mother knows you're the buyer. That's exactly what I want. Over the next 3 weeks, I coordinated the entire purchase from Germany. Home inspection revealed exactly what I expected, minor issues that any house built in the late 90s would have. The HVAC system needed some maintenance, there were a few plumbing leaks, and the roof had some loose shingles, but nothing catastrophic. Total estimated repairs came to about $8,000, well within the range I'd budgeted for. The hardest part was continuing to act normal during my weekly calls with Mom. She'd update me on the selling process, mentioning that they'd accepted an offer and were moving toward closing, while I pretended to be hearing this information for the first time.
The buyers seem really nice, she said during our call 2 weeks before closing. Cash offer, no financing complications. My agent says they're very motivated. That's wonderful, Mom. When's the closing date? May 15th. I'll be out of the house by May 20th. Wow, that's coming up fast. Are you excited about the condo? I am, actually. It's going to be a big adjustment, but I think it's time for a new chapter. Have you started packing? Slowly. There's so much stuff to go through. 23 years of accumulation. I keep finding things that belong to your father, things I forgot we even had. Her voice got soft when she mentioned Dad, and for a moment I felt guilty about the deception. But then I remembered that she was selling his workshop, his favorite armchair, his vegetable garden, everything he'd built at that house. What are you doing with Dad's stuff? I'm keeping the important things, obviously. Photo albums, his watch, some tools that have sentimental value. But honey, I can't take everything to a 2-bedroom condo. What about his workbench in the garage? The new owners can have it if they want it. Otherwise, I suppose it'll go to Goodwill. Dad's workbench was where he taught me to use power tools, where we built my Pinewood Derby car for Cub Scouts, where he restored a 1967 Mustang engine during my sophomore year of high school. The idea of it ending up at a thrift store made my chest tight. Mom, maybe I could arrange to have some of Dad's tools shipped to me in Germany. I'd love to have something from his workshop. Oh, honey, that would be so expensive. And what would you do with tools in military housing? I won't be deployed forever. Someday I'll have my own place, my own garage. We'll see. Let me finish going through everything first. The week before closing, I started getting nervous. What if Mom figured out it was me? What if the closing got delayed? What if she was angry instead of surprised? But there was no backing out now. On May 14th, I received final confirmation from Jennifer that everything was ready for the next day's closing. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. local time, you'll officially own 847 Oakwood Drive, she told me over the phone. And my mom still doesn't know? The closing documents show the buyer as R. Caldwell. Technically accurate, but not obviously connected to her unless she puts 2 and 2 together. She won't. She thinks I'm broke. Well, tomorrow you'll prove her wrong. May 15th came. While I was eating breakfast in Germany, my childhood home was changing hands in a lawyer's office in Millbrook, Tennessee. I couldn't be there in person, but Jennifer had arranged for a power of attorney to handle the signing on my behalf. At 3 p.m. my time, 9 a.m. Tennessee time, my phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. Congratulations, homeowner. Keys are in the lockbox. Code is your birth year. I was now the official owner of 847 Oakwood Drive. Mom had no idea. The next 5 days were torture. I owned the house, but I couldn't tell anyone. Mom was busy packing and preparing for her move to Riverside Gardens, completely unaware that her buyer was her own son. During our video call that Sunday, she looked exhausted but relieved. Well, it's official, she said, holding up a set of keys. I handed these over to the new owner's representative on Friday. 23 years in that house, and now it belongs to someone else. How are you feeling about it? Honestly, it's bittersweet. When I walked through the empty rooms one last time, I kept remembering you and your father in every corner. But Reggie, I also felt this weight lifting off my shoulders. No more worrying about repairs, property taxes, or rattling around in a house that's too big for one person. Where are you staying until you can move into the condo? Your Aunt Linda offered to let me stay in her guest room for a few weeks. The condo won't be ready until June 1st. The previous owner needed extra time to move out. This was perfect. Mom would be at Aunt Linda's house across town, giving me time to execute the next phase of my plan. I have some good news, I told her. I'm getting leave approved for the first week of June. I'll be home to help you settle into the new place. Her face lit up. Really? Oh, honey, that would be wonderful. I could use the help, and it's been so long since we've spent time together. I'm looking forward to it too, Mom. What she didn't know was that I'd already arranged for 2 weeks of leave, not 1. The first week would be my secret renovation week. Tuesday morning, I called Jennifer with my plan. I need to coordinate some work on the house before my mom finds out I'm the owner. Can you help me line up contractors? What kind of work are we talking about? Everything she mentioned needed fixing. The HVAC maintenance, the plumbing leaks, the roof repairs. Plus, I want to do some cosmetic updates. Fresh paint in a few rooms, new fixtures in the bathrooms, maybe refinish the hardwood floors. Rigi, that's a lot of work to coordinate long distance, especially on a tight timeline. I'm willing to pay premium rates for fast service. Money isn't the issue, timing is. Jennifer connected me with a general contractor named Mike Torres, who specialized in quick turnaround renovations. When I explained the situation, deployed military, buying back childhood home as surprise for family, he was all in. This is the kind of project I live for, Mike told me during our video call. How much do you want to invest in improvements? Whatever it takes to make the house better than it was when my mom sold it. I want her to see that the place she thought was falling apart is actually worth saving. Give me a budget range. I'd done the math. With the purchase price, closing costs, and my planned improvements, I'd be spending nearly $300,000, almost every penny I had saved over 6 years of military service. $30,000 to $40,000. Can that make a significant difference? With that budget, I can transform this place. New flooring throughout, complete kitchen refresh, bathroom updates, exterior painting, landscaping, the works. How long do you need? If I bring in extra crews and work extended hours, I can have it done in 10 days. Perfect. I'll be there June 1st to oversee the final details. Mike and his team started work on May 22nd. Every day he sent me photo updates of the progress. It was surreal, watching my childhood home get renovated through pictures on my phone while I was 7,000 miles away. The kitchen transformation was incredible. Mike kept the original layout but updated everything else. New granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, subway tile backsplash, and refinished cabinets with modern hardware. The room where Mom used to make Sunday pancakes and help me with algebra homework looked like something from a home improvement magazine. The bathrooms got complete makeovers too. The main bathroom, where I used to practice basketball shots with a Nerf hoop on the door, got new tile, a modern vanity, and updated lighting. The guest bathroom received similar treatment. But the biggest transformation was Dad's old office. Mom had been using it as a storage room for the past 4 years, but Mike cleared it out and restored it to its original purpose. New paint, refinished built-in bookshelves, and professional carpet cleaning revealed a space that looked exactly like it did when Dad was alive. The exterior work was dramatic too. Professional landscaping replaced the overgrown bushes with neat shrubs and colorful flower beds. The front porch got new boards and a fresh coat of paint. The driveway was power washed and sealed. Even the mailbox was replaced with a classic design that matched the house's style. By May 30th, Mike sent me the final progress photos. I barely recognized the place. It was still undeniably our family home, but it looked like the best possible version of itself. Your mom is going to lose her mind when she sees this, Mike texted with the last batch of pictures. I hoped he was right. June 1st arrived. I'd been traveling for 18 hours, military transport from Germany to Dover Air Force Base, then a commercial flight from Delaware to Nashville. Jennifer picked me up at the airport and drove me straight to Oakwood Drive. Walking up to my own front door felt surreal. I'd been planning this moment for 2 months, but actually standing there with the key in my hand was overwhelming. Go ahead, Jennifer said. It's your house. The door opened to reveal a home that was somehow both exactly as I remembered and completely transformed. Updated light fixtures. The living room walls were painted a warm gray that made the space feel both modern and welcoming. I walked through each room slowly, taking in every detail. The kitchen was stunning, completely updated but still recognizably the heart of our family home. The bathroom renovations were flawless. And Dad's office? I had to sit down when I saw it. It looked exactly like it did when I was 12 years old, doing homework while he worked on his computer. But the real surprise was upstairs. Mike had taken it upon himself to update my old bedroom too. The glow-in-the-dark stars were still on the ceiling, but everything else had been refreshed. New paint, new carpet, updated window treatments. It looked like a room where a kid could grow up happy, just like I had. Mike went above budget on a few things, Jennifer explained as we toured the house, but he said some projects just demanded to be done right. How much above budget? About $8,000, But Reggie, look at this place. It's not just renovated, it's been restored. She was right. This wasn't just my childhood home anymore. It was the home my childhood deserved. I spent the next 3 days fine-tuning everything. I arranged for Dad's favorite chair, the one Mom thought she'd donated, to be delivered from storage. I'd secretly bought it from the furniture store where she'd taken it. I hung family photos that I'd had reprinted from digital copies. I even tracked down the exact model of kitchen table we'd had when I was growing up and had it delivered. By June 4th, everything was perfect. The house looked better than it ever had, but it still felt like home, like our home. Now came the hard part. It was time to call Mom and tell her I was in town. "Honey, you didn't tell me you were flying in today," she said when I called from the house. "I wanted to surprise you. Are you free this afternoon? I'd love to see you, and I have something I need to show you." "Of course. I'm at Linda's, but I can come meet you wherever you are." "Actually, I was thinking we could meet at the old house. I want to see what the new owners have done with the place." There was a pause. "Reggie, I don't think that's appropriate. It's not our house anymore." "Trust me, Mom. I've already arranged it with the owner. They're happy to let us take a look." "Well, I suppose it might be nice to see it one more time. The new owners seemed really lovely." "Great. Can you meet me there at 3 o'clock?" "I'll be there." I spent the next hour pacing through the house, rehearsing what I was going to say. How do you tell your mother that you've spent your entire life savings buying back the home she sold because she thought you couldn't afford it? At exactly 3 o'clock, I heard a car door slam in the driveway. I watched through the front window as Mom's silver Honda pulled into the driveway. She sat in the car for a moment, probably gathering herself emotionally before seeing our old home again. When she finally stepped out, she looked smaller somehow, more fragile than I remembered from our video calls. She was wearing the blue cardigan Dad bought her for their 20th anniversary and carrying the purse I'd given her for Mother's Day 3 years ago. Everything about her seemed careful, like she was trying to hold herself together. I opened the front door before she could knock. "Reggie!" She rushed up the front steps and wrapped me in the kind of hug that makes you remember being 8 years old. "Oh, honey, you look so good. Military life agrees with you." "Thanks, Mom. You look good too." She stepped back and glanced around the entryway, then did a double take. Oh my, the new owners have certainly been busy. "Come in, let me show you around." We stepped into the living room, and Mom just stopped moving. Her hand went to her mouth, and for a terrifying moment I thought she was going to cry. "Reggie, this is incredible. Look at these floors. And the paint? When I sold this place, the living room walls were that awful beige color that your father insisted on. This gray is so much more sophisticated." She moved into the room like she was in a museum, touching surfaces gently, as if she couldn't believe they were real. "The new owners clearly have excellent taste," she murmured, running her fingers along the mantelpiece that had been professionally refinished. "Wait until you see the kitchen." I led her toward the back of the house, watching her face as we walked through the dining room. She noticed every detail: the new light fixture, the restored hardwood, the fresh paint on the built-in china cabinet. But when we reached the kitchen, she actually gasped. "Oh my God! Oh my God, Reggie, look at this place!" She turned in a slow circle, taking in the granite countertops, the subway tile backsplash, the stainless steel appliances. "This is the kitchen I always dreamed of having. Remember how I used to show you pictures from home improvement magazines and say, 'Someday'?" I remembered. Sunday mornings after church, she'd spread those magazines on the old Formica countertop and point out kitchens she loved, always followed by, "But that's not in the budget," or "Maybe when your father gets his promotion." "The new owners really understood the potential of this space," I said carefully. Mom opened cabinet doors, marveling at the updated hardware and interior organization systems. She turned on the new faucet and laughed when the water pressure was stronger than she expected. "Your father would have loved this kitchen. He always said the old one was too cramped for his cooking experiments." She touched the new countertop where his coffee maker used to sit. Remember how he'd make those elaborate Sunday breakfasts and complain the whole time about not having enough workspace? I remember. These new owners, they must have really done their research about the house's history. Everything feels authentic to the original style, but updated for modern living. She was making this too easy and too hard at the same time. Come on, let me show you the rest. The guest bathroom renovation impressed her, but it was when we reached Dad's old office that she completely broke down. Regi, her voice was barely a whisper. This room, it looks exactly like it did when your father was alive. She stepped inside and immediately went to the built-in bookshelf, where I'd arranged some of Dad's favorite books, titles I'd remembered and tracked down online. His old coffee mug sat on the desk, positioned exactly where he used to keep it. How could they possibly know what this room looked like? She picked up the coffee mug, a Father's Day gift I'd made in 4th grade art class, and turned it over in her hands. I thought I donated this. Maybe they found some old photos online. Sometimes real estate listings from years ago show up in internet searches. It was a weak explanation, but Mom seemed too emotional to question it. She sat down in Dad's old desk chair, another item I'd rescued from donation, and just looked around the room. It's like traveling back in time. I can almost smell his aftershave. I stood in the doorway, watching her reconnect with memories I'd nearly let disappear forever. This was why I'd spent my entire savings. This moment, right here. There's more to see, I said gently. The upstairs bathroom renovation impressed her, but when we reached my old bedroom, she started getting suspicious. Regi, this is your room. They kept the stars on the ceiling. I noticed that too. But how would new owners know to keep them? And look, they even painted the walls the same shade of blue you picked out when you turned 13. She was looking around the room with increasing confusion. I could see the wheels turning in her head, trying to piece together how strangers could have recreated so many personal details. These aren't strangers, are they? My heart started pounding. What do you mean? Someone who knew this house intimately did these renovations. Someone who understood what every room meant to our family. She walked to the window that overlooked the backyard and pointed outside. They even replanted Dad's vegetable garden in the exact same layout. Tomatoes in the back row, peppers in the middle, herbs along the front edge. I'd spent hours studying old photos to get that garden placement right. Mom, Regi, who really bought this house? The moment of truth had arrived. I'd rehearsed this conversation 100 times, but now that we were here, all my prepared words disappeared. I did. She turned around slowly, like she hadn't heard me correctly. What did you say? I bought the house, Mom. I'm the new owner you've been talking about. For several seconds, she just stared at me. Then she sat down heavily on my old bed. That's impossible. You don't have this kind of money. This house sold for $260,000, plus all these renovations. She gestured around the room. This had to cost at least another $40,000. You're right. It cost me almost every penny I had saved. But how? Your military salary isn't... I've been saving for 6 years, Mom. Deployment pay, combat pay, hazard duty pay. When you're stationed overseas with most expenses covered, you can save a lot more than you think. She was shaking her head like she couldn't process what I was telling her. You spent your entire life savings to buy back our family home? Not to buy it back, to keep it in our family where it belongs. Regi, that money was supposed to be for your future, a house of your own, a wife, children. This is my future, Mom. This house, these memories, the life Dad built for us here. That's worth more to me than any other investment I could make. She was crying now, but I couldn't tell if it was from happiness, anger, or something else entirely. You let me sell my own house to my own son? You were going to sell it anyway. At least this way it stays in the family. But I took your money. I took every penny you had. No, Mom, you gave me something worth a lot more than money. You gave me the chance to prove that this place matters, that Dad's memory matters, that our family history is worth preserving. She looked around the room again, seeing it with new eyes. All these renovations, you did this for me. I did this for us, for Dad, for everyone who ever loved this house. Mom stood up and walked to me.
placing her hands on my shoulders like she used to when I was little and needed comfort. Reggie Michael Caldwell, you are the most foolishly wonderful son a mother could ask for. Mom's reaction wasn't what I expected. After the initial shock wore off, she got angry. You manipulated me, she said, stepping back from our embrace. You let me go through weeks of stress, thinking I was losing our family home forever, when you had already bought it. Mom, I was trying to. You were trying to prove a point. You wanted to show me that I was wrong about your finances, wrong about the house, wrong about what was best for our family. She wasn't entirely wrong, but it stung to hear it put so bluntly. That's not fair. You made a decision about selling without consulting me. You told me I didn't have any say because I didn't live here anymore. Because you don't. Reggie, when was the last time you spent more than 3 days in this house? You visit for Christmas every other year if we're lucky. This place was becoming a burden I couldn't handle alone. But it didn't have to be a burden. I offered to help with expenses. You offered to send me more money from overseas while you're living in military housing. That's not the same as being here, dealing with broken appliances and leaky faucets and neighbors complaining about the overgrown lawn. She was pacing around my old bedroom, her initial amazement replaced by frustration. Do you understand what you've done? I canceled the lease on the condo. I told them I didn't need it anymore because this house was sold. Now I'm homeless and nowhere to live. My stomach dropped. You canceled the condo? Of course I canceled it. I thought I was going to have $250,000 from the house sale to start fresh. Instead, I have nothing and nowhere to live. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. In my head, she was supposed to be grateful, moved by the gesture, proud of my financial responsibility. I hadn't considered the practical implications for her living situation. Mom, this is still your house. I bought it for us, not just for me. No, Reggie, you bought it for you. You bought it because you couldn't stand the idea of strangers living in your childhood bedroom. You bought it to preserve your memories, not to create new ones. That's not true, isn't it? Look around this room. You restored everything to exactly how it was when you were 18. You turned the clock back instead of moving it forward. She sat back down on the bed, looking exhausted. I love you for wanting to save this place. I love that you cared enough to spend your life savings. But honey, you can't live in the past forever. I'm not living in the past. I'm honoring it. By freezing it in time, your father wouldn't want that. He'd want this house to grow and change with whoever lives in it. Then live in it with me. The words came out before I'd fully thought them through, but once they were out there, I realized I meant them. What? Move back in. Make this your home again. We can figure out the financial arrangements later, but Mom, this place needs you. I need you. Reggie, you're 26 years old. You don't need your mother hovering around while you try to build your own life. I'm not talking about hovering. I'm talking about partnership. I'm talking about keeping this house alive instead of letting it become a museum. She was quiet for a long moment, considering this. What happens when you get married? When you have children? Do you really want your wife to feel like she's moving into a shrine to your childhood? I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Right now, I'm single, I'm deployed half the time anyway, and when I am stateside, I want to come home to a place that feels like home. And you think having your mother living here will help with your dating life? Despite everything, I laughed. Mom, I'm in the military. I meet women in different cities all the time. If someone can't handle the fact that I'm close to my family, she's not the right person anyway. She smiled for the first time since the revelation. Your father used to say the same thing about his mother. She lived with us the first 2 years we were married. I didn't know that. It was his idea. He said a man who doesn't take care of his family isn't worth marrying. Drove me crazy at first, but she ended up being one of my closest friends. So, what do you say? Will you move back home? This isn't that simple, Reggie. We'd need to establish boundaries, figure out expenses, talk about what happens when your military service ends. We can figure all that out. The important thing is that you don't have to start over somewhere else if you don't want to. She stood up and walked to the window again, looking out at the backyard where Dad's garden was already showing tiny green shoots. I had gotten excited about the condo. No yard work, no maintenance, activities with other retirees. It felt like the beginning of a new adventure. You can still have adventures. This house doesn't have to be a prison. But it might become one for you. Reggie, buying this place back was an incredibly generous gesture, but it was also incredibly impulsive. You're going to be house poor for years. I'd rather be house poor in a place that matters than house rich somewhere that doesn't. She turned back to face me. What about your military career? If you're stationed somewhere permanent, are you going to sell the house, rent it out? I've actually been thinking about that. I'm eligible to apply for a transfer to Arnold Air Force Base. It's only about 2 hours from here. I could probably get a posting there within the next year. You'd request a transfer to stay closer to home? I'd request a transfer to stay closer to my family, to stay closer to you. That's when she really started crying. Not the gentle tears from earlier, but the kind of sobbing that comes from years of buried loneliness. I've been so scared, Reggie. Since your father died, I've been terrified of being alone. Selling the house felt like giving up, but I didn't know how else to move forward. I sat down next to her and put my arm around her shoulders. You're not alone. You've never been alone. I should have made that clearer. I miss him so much. I miss having someone to talk to about regular things, someone who cares about the same silly details that matter to me. I care about those things. You're half a world away most of the time. Not if I transfer to Arnold. Not if we make this work. She leaned against my shoulder, and for a moment, we just sat in the quiet of my old room, surrounded by the life Dad had built for us. The renovations really are beautiful, she said finally. The kitchen is everything I ever wanted. Mike Torres did an incredible job. And Mom, the budget I gave him included setting aside money for any changes you want to make. This is your home too. What kind of changes? Whatever makes you comfortable. Your own space, updates to the master bedroom, anything that helps this feel like your home and not just a preservation project. You'd really want me to change things? I want you to live here, not just exist here. I want this to be a place where you're happy. She was quiet again, thinking. There is one thing I've always wanted to do to the master bedroom. What's that?
Knock out the wall between the bedroom and that tiny spare room your father used for storage. Make it into a proper master suite with a sitting area. That sounds perfect. It would be expensive. Mom, I just spent $300,000 buying our own house from you. I think we're past worrying about renovation costs. She laughed through her tears. You really are your father's son. He would have done something exactly this stubborn and romantic. Is that a yes? Will you move back home? On one condition. Name it. You let me pay rent, market rate. I'm not going to be a charity case in my own home. Mom. Non-negotiable, Reggie. I have my dignity, and I have Dad's life insurance money that I haven't touched. If we're going to be roommates, we're going to be partners. Fine, but I get to pick the rental amount. Fine, but it has to be fair market value. Deal. We shook hands like business partners, both of us smiling now. So what happens next? She asked. Next, you help me turn this house into something Dad would be proud of, something that honors the past but embraces the future. And the condo? We'll figure out the cancellation details. If there are penalties, I'll cover them. Reggie, you've already spent. Mom, we're partners now. That means your problems are my problems, and my problems are your problems. We'll figure it out together. She stood up and smoothed down her cardigan, suddenly looking more like the decisive woman who raised me, and less like someone lost in grief. All right then, partner. Let's go downstairs and start planning that master suite renovation. 6 months later, I'm writing this from Dad's old office, while Mom practices piano in the living room.
The sound echoes through the house, something she never did when she lived here alone because she said it felt too empty for music. The master suite renovation was completed in August. Mom was right about knocking out that wall. The new space is incredible. She has a reading nook by the window where she drinks morning coffee and watches the birds in Dad's restored garden. The sitting area has become her favorite spot for video calls with her book club friends, who are endlessly fascinated by her roommate situation with her son. My transfer to Arnold Air Force Base came through in September. The commute is manageable, and being stationed stateside means I can actually be present for the day-to-day moments that make a house into a home. Last week, I fixed the garbage disposal while Mom made dinner. It was the kind of ordinary domestic scene that felt extraordinary after years of managing our relationship through video calls and twice-yearly visits. But the real transformation has been watching Mom reclaim our independence while having family support. She rejoined the community theater group and landed a role in their winter production of Steel Magnolias. She's taking a pottery class at the community college. She even started dating, something that horrified me initially, but now seems perfectly natural. His name is Robert Chen, and he's a retired high school principal who lost his wife 3 years ago. They met at the library during a historical fiction book discussion group. He's thoughtful, funny, and makes Mom laugh in a way I haven't heard since Dad died. More importantly, he treats our unconventional living arrangement as completely normal. Some cultures never expect children to abandon their parents, he told me during our first awkward meeting. Americans are strange about family obligations. Robert comes for dinner twice a week, and I've learned to make myself scarce on those evenings. Mom insisted on establishing dating boundaries that we both found mortifying to discuss but necessary to establish. The house is big enough for privacy, and we figured out how to give each other space while still maintaining the closeness that made this arrangement work. The financial aspects have worked out better than either of us expected. Mom's rent payments cover most of the mortgage, and we split utilities and maintenance costs. She uses Dad's life insurance money for her personal expenses and activities, finally spending it on things that bring her joy instead of hoarding it out of fear. I've been able to rebuild my savings faster than anticipated. Military housing allowance plus Mom's rent payments means my housing costs are essentially covered. The promotion to staff sergeant came with a significant pay increase, and I'm on track to have my emergency fund restored within 2 years. More importantly, the house feels alive again. Mom's piano music fills the rooms. Her friends come over for game nights and book club meetings. Robert brings his grandson over occasionally, a shy 8-year-old named Marcus who's fascinated by my military stories and helps Mom with her garden. The space that was once a shrine to the past has become a launching pad for new memories. Mom hosted Thanksgiving for the first time since Dad died, inviting Uncle Mike's family, Aunt Linda, Robert and Marcus, and 2 of my Air Force buddies who couldn't get home for the holiday. 18 people around the dining room table that we'd extended with card tables and folding chairs. Dad would have loved the chaos. But the moment that really confirmed we'd made the right choice happened 3 weeks ago. I came home from base to find Mom and Robert in Dad's workshop, teaching Marcus how to use a handsaw. They were building a birdhouse together, using Dad's old tools and workbench. "Your father would have loved this," Mom said when she noticed me watching from the doorway. "He always said his tools were meant to be used, not preserved." She was right. Dad's workshop was supposed to be a place where things got built, where skills got passed down, where projects brought people together. Seeing it serve that purpose again, even with different people, felt like honoring his memory in exactly the right way. The house itself continues to evolve. We repainted the guest bedroom and turned it into a proper office space for Mom's volunteer work with the animal shelter. She's coordinating their adoption events now and needed a professional setup for virtual meetings with potential families. We converted the basement into a proper entertainment space where I can host game nights with my military friends and Mom can have larger gatherings. It's nothing fancy, just comfortable seating, a big TV, and a mini fridge, but it gives us both more flexibility for social activities. The yard has become Mom's pride and joy. Dad's vegetable garden now produces enough tomatoes, peppers, and herbs that we share with neighbors. She added flower beds along the front walkway and installed a small fountain near the back patio. On summer evenings, she and Robert sit out there planning their next travel adventure, something she never thought she'd be able to afford or enjoy after Dad died. Last month, they took a long weekend trip to Asheville. Having the house to myself for a few days reminded me why the partnership works so well. I enjoyed the solitude, but I also missed her presence. When she came home with stories about mountain views and craft breweries, the house felt complete again. The legal arrangements have been formalized too. We worked with an estate planning attorney to set up a trust that protects both our interests. If something happens to me during military service, Mom has guaranteed lifetime residence in the house. If she decides to move or passes away, I retain full ownership. It's morbid planning, but it gives us both peace of mind. My friends' reactions to the living situation have been mixed. Some think it's weird that a 27-year-old lives with his mother. Others are envious that I have built-in house maintenance help and home-cooked meals. The women I've dated have had varying responses. Some find it endearing, others see it as a red flag about my independence. Sarah Morrison, a nurse I've been seeing for 3 months, had the most interesting perspective. "You made a choice to prioritize family over convention," she said after meeting Mom for the first time. "That tells me a lot about your character." Sarah fits into our household dynamic easily. She and Mom bond over medical stories from their respective careers. Mom worked as a school nurse before I was born. She doesn't seem threatened by our close relationship or confused by our living arrangement. Last week, she helped Mom rearrange the living room furniture and stayed for Robert's famous homemade pasta dinner. The house that once represented everything I was afraid of losing has become the foundation for everything I'm excited about building. Mom and I have created something that honors the past while embracing the future. We've proven that family relationships can evolve and adapt without losing their essential meaning. Next month marks 1 year since I bought the house back. We're planning a party to celebrate, not just the anniversary, but the life we've built here together. The guest list includes family, friends, neighbors, and Robert's extended family. Mom wants to hire a pianist for the evening, someone who can play the songs Dad loved. "He would be so proud of what we've accomplished," she told me yesterday while we planned the menu. Not just saving the house, but making it a home again.
She's right. Dad always said that houses are just buildings until love fills them up. This place is full of love again. Old love, new love, and the kind of love that bridges generations and honors memory while creating new traditions. I think about that phone call from Germany sometimes. When Mom first told me she was selling the house, I remember feeling like my world was ending, like something irreplaceable was being lost forever. I couldn't have imagined then that losing the house would lead to finding something even better, a partnership with my mother that's stronger than anything we had when I was growing up. Sometimes the best way to preserve the past is to trust it enough to let it grow. The anniversary party exceeded every expectation. 43 people showed up to celebrate what Mom started calling the Great House Rescue of 2025. The pianist she hired turned out to be Mrs. Henderson, my old high school music teacher, who remembered exactly which songs Dad used to hum while working in the yard. But the real surprise came during the toasts. Uncle Mike stood up first, wine glass in hand, and told everyone the story from his perspective. How he'd watched Mom struggle with loneliness after Dad died, how worried the whole family had been about her isolating herself, and how proud he was that we'd found a way to honor tradition while building something new. Then Robert stood up. He'd been dating Mom for 4 months by then, and I still wasn't entirely comfortable with their relationship, but his speech changed everything. When I first met Patricia, she told me about her son who'd spent his entire life savings to buy back the family home, he said, looking around the crowded living room. I thought it was either the most romantic gesture I'd ever heard or the most foolish financial decision a young man could make. Everyone laughed, including me. But standing in this house tonight, surrounded by 3 generations of people who consider this place home, I realize Regi didn't just buy a house. He invested in the idea that some things are worth more than money. He bet on the belief that family isn't just about blood. It's about the spaces where love grows and memories multiply. He raised his glass toward me. "Young man, you didn't just save a building. You created a legacy." The applause was embarrassing and wonderful at the same time, but it was Mom's speech that brought me to tears. 18 months ago, I thought I was making a practical decision, she began, her voice steady but emotional. I thought selling this house was about accepting reality and moving forward sensibly.
What I didn't understand was that I was giving up on the idea that our family story could continue growing. She looked around the room at faces I'd known my whole life, plus new ones that had become part of our extended family. My son taught me that preserving the past and embracing the future aren't opposite choices. They're the same choice, made with love and courage, and maybe a little bit of beautiful stubbornness. The biggest shock of the evening came when she announced her engagement to Robert. They'd kept it secret for 2 weeks, waiting for the party to make it public. My initial reaction was complicated. Happiness for her, anxiety about how it would change our living situation, and a weird protective instinct that took me by surprise. But watching her face as she showed off the simple diamond ring Robert had chosen, I realized this was exactly what Dad would have wanted for her. He'd made her promise during his final weeks that she wouldn't spend the rest of her life alone. It had taken her 5 years to believe she deserved companionship again. "What does this mean for the house?" I asked her later, after most of the guests had left and we were cleaning up. "That depends on what you're comfortable with," she said, wrapping leftover cake. "Robert and I have talked about it extensively. He's willing to move in here if you're okay with that arrangement, or we could find our own place nearby." And leave me rattling around in this big house by myself? Only if that's what you want. I considered it seriously. The house had 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and plenty of common space. Robert was quiet, respectful, and genuinely seemed to care about Mom's happiness. His grandson Marcus already felt like part of the family. What kind of timeline are we talking about? We're thinking about a small ceremony in spring, maybe April or May. Nothing elaborate, just family and close friends. Here at the house? Her face lit up. Would that be okay? We talked about having it in the backyard, under the oak tree where your father used to read Sunday morning newspapers. Mom, there's nowhere Dad would rather see you get married again. The wedding planning became a family project. Sarah, who'd become a permanent fixture in our household by then, helped with decorations and coordinating vendors. Marcus appointed himself the official taste tester for all catering options. Even my Air Force buddies got involved, offering to handle parking logistics and setup. But the most meaningful preparation happened in February, when Robert and I spent a weekend cleaning out Dad's closet together. Mom had been putting it off for years, and Robert felt weird about claiming the master bedroom space without addressing the elephant in the room. "These clothes tell stories," Robert said, carefully folding one of Dad's work shirts. "We should make sure they go to people who need them, rather than just donating them to strangers." We ended up creating care packages for homeless veterans through a program at the base. Dad's work clothes went to guys transitioning back to civilian employment. His casual clothes went to a shelter that helps veterans find housing. His dress shirts and ties went to an organization that provides interview clothes for job seekers. But we kept some things. I took his favorite flannel shirt and his old baseball cap. Robert, with Mom's permission, kept Dad's workshop apron and his good winter coat. "I promised to honor the man who wore these," he told me, and I believed him. The strangest part of the whole process was how natural it felt. 6 months earlier, the idea of another man sleeping in Dad's bedroom would have made me furious. But by February, it felt like the logical next step in our family's evolution. Marcus started staying over on weekends, turning the guest bedroom into his unofficial space. He and I built a treehouse in the backyard oak tree, the same tree where Mom and Robert would exchange vows 2 months later. Watching an 8-year-old experience the same sense of adventure and security I'd felt in that yard made the house feel truly multi-generational again. The wedding was perfect. 32 guests, including Sarah's parents, who'd driven down from Kentucky to meet our unconventional family. Mrs. Henderson played piano again. Marcus served as ring bearer, with the kind of serious concentration that only 8-year-olds can muster for important responsibilities. But the moment that defined the day came during Robert's vows. Instead of the traditional promises, he spoke directly to our family. "Patricia, I promise to love you and support your dreams and adventures. Marcus, I promise to be the grandfather figure you deserve. And Reggie, I promise to be a good steward of the home and the memories you fought so hard to preserve." Then he turned back to Mom. "I promise to help you write new chapters without erasing the beautiful story you've already lived." Dad would have loved him. The reception lasted until nearly midnight. 3 generations dancing to music from 3 different decades. Neighbors who'd watched me grow up, celebrating alongside military friends who'd become chosen family. Sarah and I slow danced to the same song my parents had chosen for their wedding dance 31 years earlier. "Are you okay with all this?" she asked as we swayed on the improvised dance floor in our living room. "Better than okay. I'm grateful." And I was. The house that had once represented everything I was afraid of losing had become the foundation for everything I'd gained. Mom had her companionship and security. Robert and Marcus had a family home. I had a support system that would be there whether I was deployed overseas or stationed stateside. A year later, Sarah and I got engaged. The proposal happened in Dad's workshop, surrounded by the tools that 3 generations of men had used their hands. She said yes, then immediately started planning how we could convert the basement into our own apartment within the larger family compound. "You're sure you want to live in a house with your mother-in-law, your stepfather-in-law, and a kid?" I asked her. "Reggie, I want to live wherever you are, and your family isn't a burden, it's a blessing. How many couples get built-in babysitters, home maintenance help, and Sunday dinners with people who genuinely love each other?" She was right. What had started as a desperate attempt to preserve the past had evolved into something I never could have planned, a chosen family that spans generations and honors both tradition and change. The house on Oakwood Drive isn't just my childhood home anymore. It's Mom and Robert's newlywed haven. It's Marcus's weekend adventure headquarters. It's Sarah's and my launching pad for married life. It's the place where Dad's memory lives alongside new love and fresh dreams. Sometimes people ask if I regret spending my entire life savings on what they see as an overly sentimental gesture. The answer is simple. It was the best investment I ever made. I didn't just buy a house, I bought the chance to prove that family legacies aren't about preserving things exactly as they were. They're about creating spaces where love can grow in whatever form it takes. The phone call that started this whole story, Mom telling me she'd sold our family home, felt like the end of the world. But it was actually the beginning of something better than I'd ever imagined. Sometimes the biggest disasters turn into the greatest gifts, if you're brave enough to fight for what matters and wise enough to let it evolve. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.